all week so far around that corner, and I think you just could see the car on the inside move over to the right suddenly, and I'm not sure why. Maybe he felt that he was going to get out of the way and give Stefan the racing line, but Stefan was already committed, and it's just one of those things, you know, a misunderstanding probably. Maybe he lost control on the inside, but I'll be surprised because it's easily flat out in a car with downforce such as LMP2 or LMP1.
We saw Stefan trying as hard as he could to try and get the car back. The team are now packing away all the bits. That's it.
I know, it's heartbreaking to see because, you know, for all the team, you know, we came here believing this would be our strongest chance yet, and you know, only 2/10 away in qualifying yesterday on average, and we really felt that we had a good race package. We could have gone much longer out there than the Audis could have as well, and in terms of fuel strategy. So we would have waited to the end of the race to see how that panned out, but the Audis were faster. We didn't expect them to be quite as quick as they were in the race compared to us, so that was already a bit of a disappointment. But yeah, obviously it can happen to anyone. It's just a shame it's us. I had a really strong feeling this would be a good race for us, and just shows you can't judge races on feelings.
Thank you.
Louise Beckett down in the pit lane. The very sad-looking remains of the Toyota pulled to the side of the circuit. It will take no further part, so it becomes an internecine battle then between Alan McNish's number 2 car and Marcel Fessler's number 1. They are battling for the championship, of course. The Swiss driver in the pits, in the driver's seat at the moment of that number 1 car, which started on pole position. You are just joining us some 48 minutes or so into the race. Alan McNish turns early into the pit lane entry. Ooh, did he go past the safety car there? That was touch and go. Eduardo Freitas told the guys that when you're on a fast lap and you're staying out, the blend line is invisible. When you're coming into the pit lane, it's a brick wall. So you must be across to the left-hand side of the track very early. Both Audis are now in the pit lane, first and second, heading down towards our Powered by Nissan pit lane reporter, Joe Bradley.
Well, the drivers have done their bit. Now it's up to the crew to get these cars serviced and out. We've got a driver change possible in the number 1 Audi. Number 2 Audi comes into pit lane first. Full tank of fuel going into both cars. Windscreens being cleaned, and the windscreen rip-offs coming off of both cars. Now we've got a suited and booted Andrea Lotterer in readiness, but whether or not he takes the car, the number 1 car over, remains to be seen. Pressure's off a little bit under the yellow flag conditions, so both teams taking advantage of the caution period to not just take on fuel but also change onto a fresh set of tyres. Let's not forget that the tyres that the car started on are the tyres that the car's qualified on, so there's a lot of mileage already on those tyres. Already the number 2 Audi is down off its jacks and back into the race, and it is quickly followed by the second place number 1. Audi pit stops done and dusted.
Yeah, both taking tyres, as Joe mentioned, new set of Michelins all round, so Paul will tick that off on his spreadsheet. The 26G drive Nissan's coming from the lead of P2. There's a whole gaggle of GT cars coming in as well, which includes most of the Amfield, although not the leader. The 2 Astons have stayed out there, and it's from third on down over that have come into the pit lane. And I don't believe, Paul, that the leading quartet of cars in the GT Pro field came into the pits either. Bruni, Turner, Kobayashi and Senna look like they've stayed out.
Yes, that's absolutely right, John. Just checking to see who came through. We had Bergmeister into the pits with the Porsche, and as far as the Astons came in, it was only Pedro Lamy coming in the number 98. The other one who stayed out was the Rebellion Lola number 12. So we do have a change of lead, in fact, because that means that as they head into lap 32 now, we've got Nicolas Prost leading the race in the Rebellion Lola. So there's a turn up for the books. You can tick that one off if you were ever betting that Rebellion would lead a race lap during the 2013 World Endurance Championship. They've done it.
They nearly did it before, actually, because they were going to stay out in one of the earlier races. They were going to stay out at Le Mans, weren't they? I remember Bart telling us. And then they got their pitch rather was queered by a safety car right at the wrong moment.
Exactly right, yeah, but it's happened this time, and in fairness, it theoretically could happen even without safety cars because of the extra fuel consumption and the better fuel consumption that the privateer Lola Toyota has. So we've still got a Toyota engine in the race in the hands of Nicolas Prost at the moment in the number 12 Rebellion car, which, as I say, actually leads the race, although it's tucked up fairly well down behind the safety car at the moment. In fact, it's just about at the back of the pack.
Just getting another look at the incident that took the Toyota and the Lotus out, and while I look at that, Joe Bradley is down in the pits.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, guys, but I've walked to the pit exit and I can see that the Toyota, the number 8 Toyota, has been dragged up the hill onto the old circuit, effectively off the racing track, and it looks like it's perhaps going nowhere. And I can also see that there is extensive repairs being made to the barrier on the outside of the turn where that incident took place.
What you're saying is that you've taken the opportunity to go and spectate instead of report from the pit lane. That's what you're saying.
You know me so well, my friend. He's on to me.
The Toyota is out of the race. The guys are packing up now in the number 8 garage. It is Nico Prost. So Prost leads at Interlagos. That might have been said before. McNish is in second place. He's only a couple of seconds behind him in the safety car train, and Fessler is in third, 12-2 and 1. The P2 battle has Conway Perez Companc now in the 49 Pecom racing car ahead of Jacques Nicolet in third in the Morgan Oak, with Björn Wertheim in the 41 Zytek in fourth position. 95 Aston about to come in. Now that's Nicky Team in the pit lane, so Stuart Hall will now lead in the 96 car. Now that I don't understand, why they waited an extra lap to come in, unless they got split up from the rest of the GT field. I was trying to work that out before. The Pro field certainly didn't get split by the safety car, but I think that the head of the AM field got split away from the rest of the field, Paul. That's how I'm reading that at the moment. So this effectively is a free stop for the 95 car. They shouldn't drop a lap just to come in and do a standard pit stop.
Yes, I'm not sure actually. I think they may just have chosen to come in a lap later, but yeah, they'll get out again before the safety car comes round, won't they? By my reckoning, but they will lose places in the class. Safety car just coming into the twisty bit in the back of the circuit, if my data is up to date.
That is the unmistakable sound of an Aston. Let's have a listen to the Audi radio.
Stay at 100 Ks. Stay at 100 Ks.
And the calm, cool and collected tones of Lena Gates speaking to Marcel Fessler. It's Lena on the 1 car, Kyle on the 2, and Howden Haynes overseeing both this weekend as far as the Audis are concerned. Your leader is Nicolas Prost, and we're going down to the Rebellion pits now, and Nick Heidfeld is with Louise Beckett.
Well, Nick's taken a photo of that memorable moment. Look at that, leading Nicolas Prost. Interesting decision not to take the pit stop.
Yeah, that's the decision we took now. We were a bit surprised about the Audis pitting, but we cannot find them anyway. It's cool to be in the lead. For sure we'll not keep it till the end, but we just have to play it safe and hopefully get a podium.
Is that the tactic? Because you had said you'd hoped for a podium position anyway here in Sao Paulo. Now you're going to play it safe?
Yeah, definitely, we have to. We saw that it was not really a mistake of the Toyota driver, but Kreiheimer had a problem going a bit wide over the curb. So that's what we have to avoid.
Thanks.
So those of you that were speculating on the cause of that, Dominic making the mistake and screwing sideways, that's the way also that Nick Heidfeld reads that. There's the confirmation. Nico Prost on top of the timing screens. Meantime, a little bit further down the pits, and thanks to Louise for that interview, Joe Bradley has Davide Rigon, the former Super League champion, in the sports car ranks again, and he's talking to Joe Bradley. Joe.
And he is out of the 81 8-star Motorsports Ferrari. Let's see how the first stint and the start of this race has gone for this team. David, how was that first stint? Hard work it looked.
Yes, it was very nice. Unfortunately, I didn't do a good start just because I don't see the light. So, but in the end, we are happy because the car is going very well. So the race is long. So for sure, we go for it. We are good.
How tricky is the back end of the circuit in the twisty bits? You must be having to watch your mirrors constantly.
Yes, it's quite difficult when the Audi or the LMP1 and P2 overtake you outside of the line, and we are always in the limit with the car, so it's not so easy. For me, it's the first time when I let him pass LMP1 or LMP2. It's quite difficult. You need to understand and try to lose less time as possible.
Thanks, David. Best of luck for the rest of the race. I can see you've been working hard. Very hot and sweaty David Regon here.
I think I said earlier in the week, Paul, that I thought he would make a good GT and endurance driver. Had the pleasure of working with him in interviewing when he was doing Super League, when I did a couple of fill-ins for Ben Edwards and did some commentary there for him and met him there. And he was out at Spa, of course, and he's clearly a good addition to the 8-star team and could have a bit of a future in this. That might be a factory driver in the making right there.
Could be, yeah. You never quite know what's going to happen with. I mean, the advantage that team has, of course, is that in these somewhat financially straitened times, there is money available. It would seem in the 8-star team. We had an interview on RadioLeMans.com yesterday with Enzo Potolicchio, didn't we? And very keen on what's going to happen with that team and the progress that can be made there. So yes, I mean it's interesting looking at some singles. I mean, obviously there's so many more single-seater drivers in the junior formula coming up through the ranks than there are seats available in Formula One. So you wonder, you kind of pick out some of them and say, oh, no, he'd be a good sports car driver and he'd be a good sports car driver, and you can kind of, when you're on a long road journey, you can kind of pick them out and say, those would be the guys you'd want to get into your sports car team. And I think Nick Heidfeld is another of those who's, rather than kind of seeing out his latter days without a Formula One drive, sees himself very much as a sports car driver. Yeah. If you see the difference. No,
I see that. That's a perfect way of looking at it. I'm hearing from back in the UK that we have a budding commentator talent with Erin Haynes, who was watching the television with Laurie. That's Howden Haynes' little girl and his wife. Been watching the TV, shouted up the stairs. The Toyota's had a huge shunt, there's carbon fibre everywhere. Laurie down now watching Motors TV on Sky Channel 447, she tells us. May have to get Erin in to do a stint or two. Let me go and watch a bit of racing. I'm reminded as well that David Regon is battling for the Blancpain Endurance Series title with Ferrari, so his sports car credentials are undoubted. I do think, as I said to Paul, that somebody might be having a little look at him as a factory driver or as a works driver. Now we're getting Christophe Bourret is being asked to speed up in the 76 Porsche and get up the track a little bit to close up. Let's go down to Louise. She's got Dom Kreheimer out of the Lotus, which is back in the pits, by the way, and they are trying to repair it. Well, Louise back at...
Dominic, can't believe what happened there. Can you tell us?
Yeah, actually I went into the corner, into the corner 3, and I've lost the car in the back a bit. So I had to catch it and went like straight for... It wasn't much. As soon as I got it straight, the Toyota was... I didn't know that the Toyota wanted to try to overtake me on the outside. And he like cut in a bit. And that's when we crashed together and went into the barrier. It's it's a pity because I know the car was oversteering and it wasn't easy to drive, and I could have normally should have been a problem. It's a pity, like it's unlucky that he's just there and he's on the like next to me.
Thanks for telling us. Just to make it clear, you already had that injury on your face, didn't you, this week? It's not from that.
Yeah, it's not from that. I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's got Dom Kreheimer, for those of you that can't see the picture, he's got a nasty gash underneath his left eye, which has steri strips over the top of it, holding that together. That not happening in that incident, as Louise pointed out. Well done. So he wasn't really aware that the car was there, but the car was very oversteering, and that was Dom's side of things. He did sound a bit down. I'm pretty certain that car is back in the pits, though. And whether they can get it fixed, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I saw a note. Sorry, Paul. I'm pretty sure I saw a picture with that car actually back in the pit lane. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to pick up on that one, I've got data coming through, assuming that its transponder is still attached, because we did have that problem with the other Lotus earlier on, where we didn't have a transponder. But if the transponders are working, then I haven't had either of those two cars back into the pits, either the Lotus or the Toyota. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. Joe Bradley has confirmed that the 31 car has. The 32 car has not made it back to the pits. The 31 car is back in the pits, is what Joe's telling me. Thank you. Start of the race then, somewhat 1 hour ago, with the Alan McNish number 2 Audi jumping his teammate off pole position. Marcel Fester seeing one of a number of drivers now who've said that they couldn't see the green lights as they came to the start line just over an hour ago. Good battling all the way down the field, and particularly in the P2 category, with the number 32 Lotus initially under making places up. First big casualty, the number 92 Porsche of Mark Lieb, having to come into the pit lane with right front wheel and tyre damage. Possible contact with the 51 Jimmy Bruni Ferrari, still waiting to get that confirmed. McNish was driving away from Marcel Fessler in the early stages of the race, and very quickly got up to the GT battle, which was raging, absolutely raging behind him, as into the pit lane comes the leader of the race, Nicola Prost in the Rebellion. The early battles in GT Pro centred around the 3rd, 4th and 5th positions. Pedro Lamy getting a little bit of a runaway. Darren Turner first, and then Bruno Senna dealing with Kamui Kobayashi to make it Aston's 2, 3 and 4 in the class behind. I'm just getting the replay of the highlights there. Jimmy Bruni out ahead of the field, and then the big accident that took out Toyota's hopes here. Dominic Kreheimer being lapped by Stefan Sarazan. And the car, both cars ending up with heavy contact on the right-hand side wall at the exit of turn number 3. Kreheimer saying he was getting on the curbs. The car was already a bit loose and got on the curbs, but couldn't get it back. And Kreheimer and the Lotus, well, he got out of the Lotus, so that was retired on the spot then. I hadn't quite seen that. Stefan Sarazan tried to pull various parts off the car manfully and get it back to the pit lane. But unfortunately, that effort was in vain, because the right front wheel was not connected to the steering rack and he couldn't get it turned around and facing in the right direction. The car's been pulled off onto the old part of the circuit. Nicola Prost has just come in to the pit lane, and that means the number 12 is now being piloted by Nick Heidfeld, which has dropped down into 3rd place. Joe Bradley is in the Rebellion pits, the Toyota Rebellion pits, the Lotus Coupe, the Lola Coupe back out on the circuit. Joseph.
Nicola, you actually led that race, I know, but tell me, what are the reasons why we stretched the fuel window of your car?
I don't know, the team, we were talking about it and they took the decision to come back in the pits. I don't know, but obviously we also want to be safe on strategy, because now we have a good opportunity of a podium. So that's what they decided. If you're honest, we're not going to be able to fight the Audis. So yeah, the point is to stay in the same lap and then we'll see. So that was the strategy. And then we will see. I think might still be a bit of time for the safety car, but we'll see.
And how difficult is it at the back of the circuit in the twisty sections, getting past the GT cars?
Well, obviously with the situation we are in, I was very careful in traffic because I knew the only way for us to get a podium is to finish the race with no problem. But yeah, I think if you have to fight, it's not easy. They have to do their own race, so you have to respect that also. And in the first stint, obviously, they're all packed up together, so they're fighting. But yeah, I mean, the accident proved you cannot try anything stupid, so you have to be a bit patient, I think.
Thank you, Nicolas. There you go. We heard the GT perspective of how difficult it is in traffic from David Rigon earlier, and there we get a LMP perspective of how tricky it is here at Interlagos when you're getting through traffic.
Powered by Nissan Pit Lane, and this morning Nissan athlete listening in today. Hello to Jan Mardenborough, who is feet up back in the UK, tuned in to Sky Channel 447 Motors TV. Don't forget you can also watch full live uninterrupted streaming video on FIAWEC.com, FIAWEC.com, and of course all sessions covered in audio at radiolemans.com of the FIA World Endurance Championships this year. Coming up, we've got the next round of the ELMS later on this month, and then of course the massive weekend at the Circuit of the Americas with radiolemans.com and the FIA WEC paired up with the ELMS. That's a very busy weekend for me, working for about 16 different people that weekend. Not sure actually how many hours of broadcasting I'm doing on that, but I may have to add that up. That might be a record for a non-24 hour race. IMSA GT3 Cup by Yokohama, the two Porsche races, then the ELMS sessions of course for the American Network TV, and then back here on radiolemans.com and FIAWEC.com for all of the sessions of the FIA race as well. So that should keep me
John,
busy.
you see, because it will be happening in the States, presumably you're not covered by the European work directive, so that'll be okay.
I think the responsible adult has managed to negotiate some kind of immunity from that. I'm definitely. She's giving me a look at the moment that says that might well be the case. I'm not going to try and play that card, Paul. I like the idea. So
just making the point there of the leading group. Having heard from Nicolas Prost, we now have Nick Heidfeld at the wheel of the Rebellion Lola. He's in the same safety car train as the leaders, but he is a lap behind the two leading Audis. Although, as we were hearing from Nicolas there, he is still in with a big chance of getting a podium. So those are the first three places. Other drivers, teams who made driver changes, the Oak, Morgan, Bertrand Baguette changed to Ricardo Gonzalez, Minassian changed to Compact, you mentioned that one, Olivier Pla in the number 24 Oak, that changed to David Heinemeier Hansen. Bjorn Wertheim in the Grieve Zytek, he stayed behind the wheel, he stayed out through that safety car pit stop, as did Mike Conway in the number 26 LMP2 car, and that car, the number 26 car, is the one that still leads the LMP2 class.
yeah, I'm just trying to work out as well as they go by me and with the pictures that I can see what's happening with the GT battle and who is where, because immediately behind the safety car, the RS5, is the Corvette, which is the last car in GT AM, having completed 10 fewer laps than the leader in category. Number 12 car being asked to pick up the pace to get onto the back of the safety car line. That is Nick Heidfeld, so we must be thinking about going green shortly. But
I suspect what's happening there is that Nick Heidfeld's in fuel-saving mode, and by staying back, he's saving even more fuel. But Eduardo de Freitas wise to that trick.
Just seeing a new bale of tyres being put over the barrier to go in front of the triple layer Armco at one part of the double crash site or the impact site on driver's right at turn number 3. That is a crane-equipped truck that's had to go around to the outside of the circuit and drive in from... I would think he may have to have gone outside of the track there. Literally did have to pay to get back in. The old circuit, of course, up on the high banking at that point, having just continued with a long, fast left-hander from where the Senna S's are now. It sort of goes straight on just a little bit and then hooks round to the left. And I urge you, if you're watching us now and are so equipped, go on to any well-known video sites and have a look at some of the early footage from there where the circuit, the old circuit, was being used. Some of the track we use now being used in the opposite direction as it used to be in those days. And the scene, as we were discussing in the mid-70s, of Carlos Pace's Formula One victory in the Brabham. And we're trying to remember whose engine it was that blew up that gave him that emotional victory here. I think it was it Jabouille? I don't know, the collective will know. We haven't looked that up actually, possibly should have. So the tyres going onto the outside of the circuit, so the safety car period will be coming to an end shortly. The safety workers have had to enter down the pit, down the normally the access road, but that looks like that is nearing completion now, with the guys working very hard with the overhead crane on the back of the flatbed. The banding in front of the tyres, the sort of conveyor belt material, seemingly did its job as well in terms of absorbing the impact. I know it looks terribly old-fashioned, but I'm yet to be convinced that there's any better way of dissipating energy in front of an arm core or steel barrier than bundled tyres banded with a big, effectively what is a big rubber band. The tyres here at Sao Paulo are 7 high, banded in 3 bales in a triangle and then wrapped around with a thick netting substance. I think what's happened is, to just complicate this for the safety workers, is that the netting on 1 or 2 of those triple bundles has come apart, and that's what they're replacing at the moment.
We've also had a message, John, from the race control messaging system that incident between the Toyota and Lotus is under investigation. Quite what good it's going to do now, I don't know, but they are going to have a look at it. So they can't really apply any sanctions to either driver, but I suppose it will offer some recompense to somebody.
File this in the category of make your mind up, please. The car number 12, Nick Heidfeld, is now being told to only go at 120 kilometres an hour, which is the speed of the safety car, having been told, what, a lap or so ago he had to speed up. So we are now, what, an hour and a quarter into this race. How long have we been on the safety car now, Paul? This is the sort of thing that you log.
I can indeed. The safety car came out at 35, so we've had 40 minutes, haven't we, under the safety car. 25, 35, 40 minutes, yes, behind the safety car. And that was on lap 26, or it was the end of lap 26. They were on lap 25 when the safety car came out. And so... yeah, the problem is, of course, you're using up laps, you're using up time without really getting any benefit in the race, and so it really is neutralised.
Well done to anybody who put, particularly in the in the Pro-Am classes, P2 and GT-Am, who put their amateur driver in at the pit stop, because they're using up his time and not losing any ground on the people around them. As into the pit lane comes the Ferrari of Jimmy Bruni and the Aston Martin of Bruno Senna. So, having not stopped at the start of this, they're now going to give up an inordinate amount of ground and position as the Ferrari comes to... This is the leader in GTE Pro Joe Bradley is down in the powered by Nissan pit lane. Joe?
I am, and I'm camped outside of the number 45 Oak Racing pit because they have also come in and they will be changing drivers. Kiko Ihara, she will be taking over that car in a moment. And just up the pit lane, I'm just looking at the Ferrari and Aston pit stops as they take hold. John, I can see that the cars have already had their fuel put into the car. Now they're changing tyres. I presume they've changed drivers. You probably had a better view.
Yes, they did.
I think you're overlooking them. And just as I'm trapped down at Oak Racing, I'll let you finish off the Ferrari and Aston stops.
New set of Michelin's going on to the Ferrari. That's about to come down and does. And that's down and away. The Aston number 99, Bruno Senna gets... Now, did Bruno Senna get out of that? I was watching the Ferrari and they definitely had a pit stop. No, the very, very distinctive helmet of Bruno Senna staying in the 99 car, but there was a change in the Ferrari, and Giancarlo Fisichella has taken that car over. I think Jacques Nicole, that was a bit loud from Joe, standing in the background there, resplendent in his powered by Nissan overalls. I think that was a stint by Jacques Nicolet, Joe, entirely behind the safety car, was it? Because I'm not sure he started that car.
I'm not sure. We'll find out. I'll go back to the behind the screens at Oak Racing. I think that's more of a service area than their actual pit garage. Let's see who just popped out of that car. I'm looking for someone all very sweaty. And they've disappeared as they do behind the scenes, so I'm going into the depths of the pits, John, for the time being.
Eagle-eyed viewers, including Nick Holland, have spotted slight signs of rubbing on the left-hand side front of the 51 car, which may be a bit of CSI Sao Paulo. I wonder if there was any Porsche paint on there as well. Remember that incident with the 92 car earlier on? We did think that might have been down at turn 2 or 3 on lap 2. Jacques Nicolet did start the car, says Paul Trustwell, so he's done the bulk of that time then behind his safety car, and Kiko Ihara is in. Jimmy Bruni already been debriefed, doing his best Rob Bell impression there in the pit lane. So with still the safety car out, and having been out for over 40 minutes now, Alan McNish leads, with Marcel Fessler in second place, the two Audis 2 and 1. No Toyota Works car to worry about now, with the 8 car abandonné at the side of the circuit. Nick Heidfeld now taking over driving duties in the number 12 Lola Rebellion Toyota in third position, somewhere down the pace car line now, after having led the field, stayed out at the start of that safety car period. This means that they can go further into the race, of course. I wonder if the Audis will splash before we go back green. Mike Conway still leads the P2 field, and he's been in that car since the start, that car being the G-Drive racing car with Luis Perez Compact. Now, he did get in when those cars pitted. Nick Manassian started that car, so Luis has not seen a green flag lap yet. Third place is Bjorn Verdheim, been in that 41 Zytec Nissan since the start. Ricardo Gonzalez in the 35 Oak Racing car. I don't think he started that car, so he's not seen a green flag yet either. David Hennemeyer Hansen is 5th in the 35. In fact, the 3 Morgans, 25, 24 and 45, are 4th, 5th and 6th in the P2 category. Darren Turner leads in GTE Pro now, having not yet stopped. Neither is Kamui Kobayashi, and as I say that, Kobayashi comes into the pit lane. Darren Turner has not yet stopped in the 97 car. Also coming in is Stuart Hall in the leading AM Aston Martin. So let's stick me head out over the top. I can see Aston Martin and I can see Ferrari as they go to work. New tyres out for both of those cars. And there's a driver change at AF Corsa. Kobayashi out, Vilander in. And Darren Turner, I didn't see whether he got the car. So waiting for these cars to drop back down and fire up. Talking to a number of the teams actually about how difficult it was to make the transition from pit lane on the left to pit lane on the right, or vice versa actually. Normally pit lane on the right and this is pit lane on the left, the car going in the opposite direction here. It's an anti-clockwise circuit, left-hand circuit, and the Toyota team in particular were doing extra practice because the choreography of what they're used to doing in the pit lane is substantially different, and I have noticed one or two people just having fumbles. Maybe hadn't thought of that as much, would affect them as much as the guys at Toyota and Audi obviously did. Now we're hearing from the pit lane that we're expecting to get the Audis in. For driver changes.
Well, they have been out, John, for very nearly half an hour, having made their pit stop just 3 laps into, or 4 laps into the safety car period. So, and of course, they didn't do driver changes before. So, interesting way that they're having to do this now. But they are battling against one another, and that's all.
Okay. At Specutainment and at Radio Le Mans on Twitter, into the pit lane comes the leading Audi, Alan McNish, who has not been followed in by Marcel Fessler. Joe?
Yes, indeed, John, that is correct. The number 2 Audi just floating past me. Before I can get to it, I'll try not to get run down by the 61 Ferrari, who pulls in just in front of me. I can tell you that McNish is out of the car, and I think it was Loic Duval who got into the car. The car's another set of tyres that a lot of fuel splashback on that 61 Ferrari there as he pulled the fuel nozzle off. The number 2 Audi has gone. It's already gone out of there. We'll get a word with Alan, no doubt, in a moment when he pulls himself together. Right now, though, we're ready to receive the number 1 Audi. So what was significant there was that I thought, John, was the tyres. Those tyres have never done a stint on anger yet, and they've changed to a fresh set.
Well, we saw the team working hard on the car early on in the race. What were the issues?
It's an electric problem. We had a new engine. We changed the engine yesterday, and it's a piece. Normally, it's a piece. It's impossible to break this piece. So we lose 5 laps. We hope we can have points at the end, but we have to push. But for the podium today, it's finished.
Thank you.
Julien Canal from the 50 Labre competition machine, which is actually in behind the safety car at the moment, but is many laps down. Talking to Louise Becker down in the pit lane. An hour and 25 minutes gone of the 6 hours of Sao Paulo.
The FIA World Endurance Championship, exclusively live on radiolemans.com.
Powered by Nissan, coverage coming to you from Sao Paulo with Marcel Fessler having led the motor race, so that's another lead change that Paul has to log. But now into the pit lane and down towards our Nissan pit lane reporter Joe Bradley.
It is indeed the number 1 Audi coming to a stop there. Marcel Fessler getting out, jumping out of the car and allowing Andre Lotterer, I think, by the looks of the helmet colour, gets in the car. You can hear the wheel changing going on. It's already took on fuel. The fuel's done. Of course, it won't have taken a full stint of fuel there. We have been under yellow since it was refueled at the last stop. We are taking on tyres. Looking at the tyres that have come off. Yep, we'll have them. We'll keep them back just in case we need to use them again. Off the jacks. And the number 1 Audi is back out and on its way.
I find that very interesting, Paul, that they should choose to change tyres when they've only been on behind the safety car. Whether they're exactly the same, of course, is something that we don't know. They may have changed compound, I suppose, but...
Well, in effect, it's a free tyre change, isn't it? Because even though you're spending a little bit longer in the pit lane, once you get out of the pits, you just join the queue behind the safety car. So there's no benefit in not changing the tyres, because normally that is the benefit of not changing the tyres, is that you spend less time in the pits. But even though you're spending that little bit of extra time in the pits, all you're going to do when you get back onto the track is catch up with the safety car queue a little bit earlier. So you might as well change them.
I'm just going to check this when I say it visually, but I think Lotterer might have got out in ahead of Tom Christensen there. So in that pit stop cycle, the number 1 crew have turned around that car quicker than the number 2. I'll check that out in a moment, but let's go down to Joe. In fact, no, let's go down to Louise with Alan McNish just out of the number 2 Audi.
Well, there's been a driver change for the number 2 Audi. Alan, how was that first stint?
Yeah, it was good. The car was very good, better than expected, to be honest with you. I was able to get into a rhythm quite quickly, and also in traffic, and stretch the lead to Marcel and also to the Toyota. Okay, the safety car null and void that completely, but that's the way that endurance racing is. But right now, I think we've got a strong car for the rest of the race.
Great, thank you.
Has lost the lead in the Audi battle, and Nick Heidfeld now leads. Let's go down to Joe Bradley. Joe?
John, I'm just lurking. We're going to have a word with Marcel Fessler. Our friend Martin Pass has just gone off to get him, so listen out. I'll tell you when he's in front of me.
Okay, no problem. I have read that right, Paul, haven't I? That the 1 car and the 2 car have changed positions by splitting that strategy.
Yes, that's right, and also by having the extra pit stop, and that has allowed the Rebellion Lola back into the lead again. So yet another change of leader, which means we've had 5 changes of lead in the race thus far, although all of them have happened under safety car conditions. We had the number 2 car leading up until that point, but all of the leader changes happened under the safety car.
So do you not count then the fact that the pole man didn't lead a lap as a change of lead? Because
yes. Yeah, that's not a change of lead, no.
Okay, fine. Okay, people would have asked if I hadn't have asked that question. You know that, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can make up various rules, but my rule is that if the pole man doesn't lead the first lap, then he hasn't led the race.
Yeah, understood. Let's go back down to Audi, to Joe Bradley and to Marcel Fessler.
Marcel, that little trick that we pulled off in the pits has put your car in the lead.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but yeah, maybe we were a bit more lucky in the time when we came in, maybe with this stop later, 1 lap later. Yeah, obviously I was a bit disappointed about the start because there was not any red light and I didn't see any green light, so I was waiting until the point I couldn't see, and then Alan was maybe a little bit early on throttle and out accelerate me a little bit. This was a bit disappointing. All the rest, it was quite tricky in traffic, as we could see, and the race still long and we have to push.
Yes, we've spoken to a couple of drivers actually who said they couldn't see the lights also, so maybe it was the sunlight that destroyed that.
Yeah, it's a shame. Normally, it's a world championship, and at least everything should be checked before and it should work at least. I don't know what was the reason, but I lost definitely a place and was not made me so happy at that time, and it should not happen actually.
Marcel, give us a little insight into the world of an Audi Sport racing driver. What happens now? You've just gotten out of the car, you've been working hard. What will your preparation be for your next stint?
Honestly, it was not so tough at the moment. Yeah, the first few laps when it was green, it was quite hard work because I was fighting a bit with too much understeer. And now I go back to my little massage room and have maybe a massage, get changed, get the things done. Yeah.
Thanks, Marcel.
Joe Bradley down the pit lane. Pit stops are plenty, including the 88 AM Felbermeyer Proton Porsche, the number 50 Corvette, well down the order now with laps down after that problem that we heard described earlier on in the interview with Louise. electrical issue that was causing problems with the car.
Car 88, pick up the pace. We are bringing the safety car in at the end of this lap. Car 88 and car 50, pick up the pace. Join the line of cars. We are bringing the safety car in at the end of this lap.
And that's the two cars that have just pitted, so they're not getting any grace at all to rejoin. That's very good officiating, I think, from...
On track are now free for the cars to catch the crocodile. Safety car has turned the lights off, and we are ending the safety car procedure at the end of this lap.
So an hour and 32 minutes into the race, the better part of a full hour under the safety car, all bar a couple or 3 minutes. And the significance of the pictures that you are seeing at the moment on FIAWEC.com and our syndicated TV partners around the world is that Jörg Bergmeister is leading the Pro category for the Porsche. Was last, is first, and leads Paul Dallalana in the 98 Aston Martin. It's all being shuffled around. Nick Heidfeld leads in the 12 Rebellion Lola from Andre Lotterer and Tom Christensen, who are some cars behind. Mike Conway in the 26 Orica leads the 49 Pecom car with Perez Compang at the wheel and the 41 Zytek Nissan. Christoph Nygaard is actually the Aston, who is the leading GT car, and that's an amateur car. He's ahead of Bergmeister and Lana, and we go back to green flag racing with Andre Lotterer desperately to make up ground, desperately trying to make up ground through the GT traffic, and there is the number 2 car of Tom Christensen. It was not like Devallo got into there, and right down the middle, threading the needle on the first straight. That was a pass for the lead, and for a very short moment Andre Lotterer was ahead of Nick Heidfeld, but Heidfeld got the better of the traffic there and pulls to the inside. So down the inside now, drivers right. Lotterer goes very, very late on the brakes indeed, but there's not enough room there as the leader goes down the inside of the Krohn Racing Ferrari, with Maurizio Mediani at the lead, at the wheel at the moment, and now into the midfield of the GTs. These guys are all battling for position at the moment. Danger time for the 2 leading prototypes. There's a P2 car in there as well, which I think is Ricardo Gonzalez in the Morgan. So Nick Heidfeld with his mirrors full of Audi LED lights that belong to Andre Lotterer. Tom Christensen is working his way through, some 2 seconds behind this battle at the moment, but he's only got one more car to clear. Now surely the hybrid power of the Audi will take him past. Oh, 3 wide coming onto the start-finish straight. P2 and 2 P1 cars. And Lotterer goes around the outside, but Heidfeld's fighting, but cannot resist the might of the silver Ingolstadt Bullet as it goes through it and retakes the lead. The 6th change of leader in the hour and 34 minutes of racing that we have had. And now can Tom Christensen do the same thing? Great restart, leaders way down the field, fighting through GT traffic, everybody doing the right thing as Christensen now goes round the Gonzalez Oak racing car. And now the next car ahead of him is a battle for 2nd position. Paul Truswell.
Yeah, I mean, this just goes to illustrate the dangers of restarting the race behind the safety car when you've got very fast prototypes in amongst the pack. And I mean, we survived that, but it was desperately close on a few occasions. And it requires good awareness from all concerned. I mean, it's not just the drivers of the prototypes, the fast cars, who have to be on their toes, but the cars that are being overtaken have to be on their toes as well. So breathed a bit of a sigh of relief there as we watch those pictures. But great driving from all concerned, and a great race still in prospect. I mean, we only had an hour and a half of it, so still got 4.5 still to go. And of course, everybody pretty much fully fueled will be in a position to have some proper racing now.
As Christensen goes round the outside of Heidfeld heading into the final corner and retakes 2nd position. So it's 1, 2 and 12 are the top 3. The 3 P1 cars are shuffled back into the positions that we might have expected. Meantime, the big change, of course, is that in the pit stops, the 1 car has got ahead of the 2. In the meantime, Jörg Bergmeister is leading GTE Pro in the Porsche in 10th position with Giancarlo Fisichella 2.5 seconds behind him in the 51 Ferrari. Bergmeister must be out of kilter on pit stops there. I think he's done one fewer, as the Bruno Senna car comes up alongside the 81 8-star Ferrari, and for a moment that got very unnecessarily close as well. So the Pro field is 91, 51, 97 and 71, and they're separated by 4 seconds at the moment, all on lap 48. The leading AM car is Nygaard in the 95 Aston, now the 5th GT car in the field, and just ahead by about half a second of Enzo Potoliccio and that 81 bright orange Ferrari. And there is Bruno Senna.
What happened, John,
Sorry,
just
Paul,
to explain, Bergmeister made his pit stop in the Ferrari. They've both done one pit stop, in the Porsche. Bergmeister made his pit stop right at the beginning of the safety car period. And that's how he was able to get to the front of the queue behind the safety car, whereas the others who made their pit stops later on, when they were beginning to run out of fuel, they then had to join the queue further back behind the safety car. But of course what's going to happen is that Bergmeister's going to have to make his next stop for fuel before either the Ferraris or the Aston Martins.
And Nygaard leads by that half a second from Potoliccio. In fact, it's less than that, it's about 2/10. The orange 8-star car, easy to pick out in the background of the shot of the cars now coming down the pit exit straight, and the Aston ahead of that orange Ferrari is the car that he's battling. And then it's Jamie Campbell-Walter, so the Aston behind the orange Ferrari is the car that he's battling. Oh, and has Campbell-Walter gone through there? A very good restart from Campbell-Walter. Took 2 seconds out of the car ahead, and I think he might have just sneaked through into second place ahead of Enzo Potoliccio in the 81 car. Wait till we get another shot there. They were certainly very close. Just having to look in the background to see where Jamie's Aston is. 95, 81 and 96 as they went across the line anyway, with the 88 Porsche of Gianluca Roda in 4th position. Mark Lee, by the way, after that early incident, still 1 lap off the lead GT Pro lap, as is the number 98 Aston of Richie Stanaway, which has just come out of the pits. And those two guys are behind the bulk of the GT AM field. There is the leader in category, with Fisichella now right up his tailpipes. Jörg Bergmeister comes across the start-finish line and will have to defend, surely, as Fisichella looks down the inside into the braking area for turn 1. The CNRSs, they're going to go round side by side, you know, and Bergmeister's not giving it up. He's got the advantage on the second part, the right-handed part, and uses all the exit as he's absolutely entitled to. I don't think Bergmeister's going to be very happy with Mediani, because he has held him up. And I'm hearing from the pit lane that Stanaway's car is back in the pit lane after just 1 lap out, Joe.
Yeah, much to the shock and surprise of the team, because the car came, he's gone out of the pits and he's come straight back in. He hasn't gone past the pits at all. The car pulled up outside the garage and there was no crew there to receive it. They'd obviously resumed their position back in the garage, and only now has he received some kind of attention. They're in the cockpit of the car, so it's something to do with inside of the car. Whether it's a driver issue, or his belt's not done up, or something like that, or his drinks bottles come loose, something like that is my assumption. Once the car clears, we'll dive in there and get the inside story as to why that car has come straight back. In fact, it looks like a car problem. What we're seeing now is the car being jacked up by the air jacks. The car goes back down. Seems to be absolute confusion here in the 98 Aston pit. The car being held. There's invariably radio communication going on between the driver and the crew chief at the front of the car. Now the jack goes back on, so complete confusion. The car is now jacked up. It's being put onto its little dolly trays, which is always an indication that the car has got a problem and has got to go back into its garage. So that car is now going into its pit garage for work to be done somewhere. I'll check on that, John, and get back to you.
1 of 5 Aston Martins then, and it's the 98 that goes into the pit box first. Meantime, the battle at the head of the GT Pro field is bottled up behind Mediani, who needs to pull over Bergmeister, Fisichella, Mucker and Wielander's not too far back. What a cast of characters that is in this drama, with Porsche, Ferrari and Aston Martin, the top 3 marks in the World Endurance Championship, the top 3 in those positions in GTE Pro, and Bergmeister is driving impeccably. He is confident enough not to have to cover the inside here, but now Mediani in that bright chrome aviation green Ferrari ahead of him is becoming somewhat of an issue. He is being shown the blue flags, and Bergmeister will not be happy. Got to go down the inside here, and does. Mediani pulls into him though and cuts him off. Oh, Maurizio, what are you doing? Oh, big fire! Ferrari on fire. Now that is ahead of Bruno Senna's car. That's Wielander. Wielander's car is on fire. The back of the car is massively ablaze, and he needs to get that pulled over to the side of the road. This is the 71 car that is in a massive conflagration at the end of the lap. Now what happened there? Oh, and this fuel or oil just burst out of the back of the car, and the car's going up. Wielander is out of the car. He dives over the 3-layer Armco and runs away from the car. That is not coming back. That is a well done Ferrari. Within not even half a lap, 2 or 3 corners, I saw fluid come out of the back of the car. It went onto the hot exhaust, and the back of the car is up and in flames. The driver is out. Wielander is out of the car. Safety car's being scrambled. This is right at the end of the lap, right in front of Bruno Senna's car. Great pickup by the TV guys, by the way. The safety car is out and the fire truck is already there, and not even the best of onboard systems is going to quell those flames. That is a big fire. The rear, the carbon now has caught fire, the underneath part of the engine bay, that's going to burn to the ground. That Ferrari is going to burn back to the firewall. Thick pall of black smoke over to my left behind the pit lane, and everything behind the firewall of that Ferrari is going to go. It was just coming around the middle part of the circuit, and there's fluid pouring out the back of that car. Started at the left-hand rear and then spread quickly across the back of the car. Bruno Senna clearly could see that. The onboard pictures scary, as Wielander's car is out of the race in the biggest way possible. Good news is, and I'm going to say this again in case you didn't hear, Wielander is out, and Jimmy Bruni watching the same pictures as we saw, identifying sadly his teammate's car as it continues to burn despite the best efforts of the fire marshals. I don't think they're going to be able to put that out. That will just have to burn. Paul Truswell watching that is very scary indeed.
Yeah, yes, it is, and particularly if you're actually there. I mean, I've been at a couple of racetracks where you see that plume of smoke, and with the benefit of TV pictures, we can see and be assured that Wielander was out of the car, and you could kind of sense from his body language that even when he was out of the car and behind the barrier, there was still an element of fear in his body language. You know, he wanted to be away as far as possible away from that car as he possibly could. I just wonder whether it could have been just a massive fuel tank failure. I mean, the split, I mean, there'll be bag tanks within there, but I just wonder what, I mean, it's clearly fuel causing the problem there, but you know, it seemed as though the whole fuel tank must have ruptured, and that was what then caused the massive conflagration. So
he was quickly out of the car.
Very scary moment for everybody, because you know, you don't want to have burning cars on a racetrack, and it's a sight you don't see very often these days.
Very interesting to see Wielander at the side of the track with his thumbs up to his other Ferrari teammates. That fire's still not out, and it was raging so much that by the time that Wielander was pulling it off to the side of the track, it was melting the rear tyres. There was actually rubber being left on the track where it was melting away from the Michelins. The mechanics shaking their head. Jimmy Bruni's walked off to the back, but good to see Tony Wielander at the side of the track and giving the thumbs up to his colleagues as they went by. I think he must have felt the heat within the cockpit as well, Paul. I mean, the back of it's a rear engine car, the Ferrari. There is a solid firewall between them, but with the flames of that ferocity. There's no way that that wasn't coming through into, in fact, I just saw his body language there. I think he was feeling the heat on the back of his neck and decided to bail out wisely very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it is, as I say, it's not a thing you see very often these days, but when it does happen, it's even more shocking. And yeah, you will feel the heat. I mean, it's a hot day anyway, and you know, even though you've got fireproof clothing on, you still say it's still a dangerous situation.
Back of the Ferrari is now a charred mess. Carbon fibre, once it gets going as well, is very, very difficult to put out. This is the area of the track where David Brabham a couple of years ago in the prototype couldn't get the car quite up the hill and had to roll backwards into what is effectively the old track there and off the circuit within sight of the end of the pit lane. Remember that. And this car is going to take a while to be recovered. Vilander by the side of the track and absolutely fine, although I'm not sure he's very happy. They've got the tow rope on that car already. Water now being used rather than foam to get the temperature of the back of that car down to try and get the potential of the car bursting back into flames and take that potential away. Joe Bradley's down in the powered by Nissan pit lane. Any signs of people want to take advantage of this? It seems like we've only just gone green, of course.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Paul's more of a tactician than I am. However, with times like this, we can deliberate. If I was in charge, if I was on the wall, I'd be coming in. I would be taking advantage of the yellow, taking a pit stop without the pressure of a green, topping up the fuel, maybe even putting on some tyres. Paul, would you agree?
No, I don't think I would actually, Joe. The problem is that you'll lose track position.
Yeah.
And we've only had, 15, 17 minutes of green flag running. So I think I'll just stay out there. There'll be no barrier repairs. So as soon as they've got the car removed, they'll be back on their way again. So no, my take would be to stay out there. We're on the third lap since the safety car was deployed. Actually, we're second lap. This will be the completion of its second lap when it comes through. They seem to only start counting it when it's done a complete lap. So I would say stay out there, I think
it depends, Paul, very much when you pitted in that 40-minute previous safety car. I think if I'd pitted very, very early on and hadn't had the second pit stop, I might consider it, because 40 minutes of going slowly is still 40 minutes of burning fuel.
Plus, my thing is...
I'll go along with that, particularly if you're Jörg Bergmeister, for example, because he was one of the ones who did stop early in that session, early in the first safety car period, and so, yeah, possibly somebody like Jörg Bergmeister might stop, but I don't think we'll see any of the prototype stopping.
Sure.
My thinking would be that, fingers crossed, the next stint will be fully green and my opponents would have to pit under green, and then I'd regain that track position that I'd lost. Albeit I'm going to come out under a caution behind the safety car, so I'm just going to be a little bit behind them in the crocodile, so it's not much to make up.
And what you're doing is you're extending your fuel window as well.
That's what I've been taught to do. And take advantage of extending that fuel window every single time you can, right up until you can fuel to the finish.
Well, I like this. We've got the tactics and the statistics of Paul and the gut feeling of ex-team manager Joe Bradley. I like it. I like the way this is playing off.
Yeah, it's a good job we're not on the team together, though one day we should be.
Imagine if you put me in as the driver.
Imagine our debriefs.
Yeah, then put me in as the driver and I wouldn't listen to either of you.
Oh, there we go. That is something that we need to tick a box for.
We've had an hour and 50 minutes of this 6-hour motor race, and now something over an hour of yellow flag, full course caution, safety car running. Andre Lotterer leads for Audi as the safety car will come in at the end of this lap. Tom Christensen is 3.5 seconds behind him in the crocodile.
Opening now the pit entry. We are opening now the pit entry. Safety car has been instructed to speed up. Safety car has been instructed to speed up. We are bringing the safety car in at the end of this lap. We are bringing the safety car in at the end of this lap.
You cannot fault Eduardo Freitas for being clear with his instructions to those on the pit wall and in the cars. Nick Heidfeld still hanging on in there in third position and still on the lead lap, which is lap 59 at the moment, of the two Audis. And of course, he pitted after the Audis, so again, he's extended his pit window in P2, 26, 49 and 40.